Okay, so let's talk about the different assessments that you can have in Schoology. So right now, I'm in one of my Schoology courses. I'm in a test course actually that I make for myself. And you have two different options when we're talking about assessments. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the Add Materials button where I add in any type of assignment. And these are the two options right here. You can have Add Test or Quiz or Add Assessment. This Add Assessment is one of the newer features of Schoology. They're still kind of working out some bugs and different things like that. And then this one is the older version that may be a little bit more limited. Because I'm not a math teacher, I'm not quite sure which one will work best for you. So I'll just go over kind of some basic things about each and you can make that decision and play around with it. So I'm going to go ahead and click the old version first, Add Test or Quiz. And it's going to ask me to give it a name, and normally I just do like test, or you would call it whatever you want to call it. I give it a due date, a point value, and you have to give it a category, and you can decide to have it on a numeric scale, which I normally do. Now this green button here means that it's published to students, but that does not mean that they can take it. When it's published, they can see that a test is there and when the due date is, but they won't be able to take the test itself because I'm going to go ahead and click create. Whenever you create a test, it automatically shows it as submissions disabled. You have to enable the test in order for them to take it first. Just keep that in mind if you're wondering why your kids can't access it. If that's the case, do you have submissions enabled? And you would do that in settings. So when you go to settings, before we even add questions, the submissions right here, right now it's automatically on disable. You can manually enable it and then save it, and your students would then be able to take it. Or you can have it open in advance, schedule it to open, or schedule it to open and close. So that's all up to you. And there's a couple of other features on here. You do want to make it resumable, but other than that, everything else is up to you and your preferences. And you have to always make sure that you save changes at the end. Right now it's still disabled because I didn't enable it, but I just want to show you the types of questions that you can do. So you have questions, settings, preview, results, and comments. We're definitely going to be working more in these top four. I hardly ever have to use the comments at all. So this is where you add questions. And you can see here how many questions you have added and how many points it's worth. So I'm going to go ahead and add a question, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick a standard multiple choice, although you do have all of these different features that you can have here. You definitely don't want to import a test or quiz because it's only going to be able to come from either Blackboard or Ed Mastery, and we have neither of those, so that doesn't really apply here. So you are going to have to write out each question, but then you can use this for years to come if that's the case. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a multiple choice question. And again, for math, I'm not quite sure how this will work. I know that you would use this formatting tool up here to type out a question, however the case, or whatever the case may be. So to write out different equation styles, you have formatting here, but you have this insert content button here, and you can add equation or latex. Latex is, I'm not quite sure what that is. You might have a better idea of what that is other than me. But if you add an equation, it has different features of operators that you can add, relationships that you can add, equations, arrows, any kind of miscellaneous type, any kind of Greek type, decrease the font or increase the font, and you can make your equations like that. So that's the way that you would do that. And I'm not sure of any other type of math thing that you would have going on there. You do have like ordering, multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, and matching. And so I don't know how a math person would use that. You would know better than I do on that. We've already been to the settings. Again, this is how you enable. And then once you're done writing your test and you want to see what this looks like, you can hit the preview button. And this is what it would look like to your students. So you can make sure it does show up okay. And after your students take it, you will see all of the results right here. If it's anything other than a short answer essay question, everything else will grade itself if you want it to. But the short answer essay questions, you do have to grade by yourself, and so it won't grade it for you. that is the quickest rundown I've ever given of this feature, but I just want you to see what it is. And then I'll show you the assessment tool, and you might find that you like that one better. So again, I'm going to go back to the main course page, and I'm going to go to Add Materials, and I'm going to click Add Assessment. Again, I have to give it the same type of information. I have to give it a due date, a point value. Now you can enable or disable or schedule your submissions right here. For now, I'm just going to have it disabled, and I can always change that later. I have to give it a category. And again, you can either publish it or wait to publish it to your students right then and there. I'm going to go ahead and click Create. And the setup is actually first on this one. So you can have a time limit, same thing that would be in the settings for the other one. They just have a little bit more. Like they can use a ruler or a calculator in this one, and you can say whether or not you want them to use that, even a protractor if you wish. So that's up to you and yours. And then when you get to the questions itself, you notice that there's a lot more question types because this is the newer version. And a lot of it is kind of geared for math, in my opinion. So you can have a chart, and this is a little bit harder, and forgive me, I haven't actually done any charts on here. So some of this, again, you might know better than I would, but you can put point values and stuff on the x-axis and y-axis, and you can preview the question to see if you're doing it right. And then you could give a correct answer setup here. It's not as intuitive as the other one, and quite honestly, I can't show you how to write these questions because I've never had to write these questions myself. So you might have to struggle with that for a little bit. They do have number lines that you can do as well. So either plotting lines on a point or whatever the case may be. And again, you could preview your question there. And they do have a math short answer. You can write your question, and as with every other question, you do have this kind of toolbar up here that you can use to help format it. And here you actually have different equations that pop up for you that might make it a little bit easier for you to type it out. And so again, I'm not quite sure what type of math you're teaching and how you would want to use this. So this might be easier for you, or it might be harder for you depending on what you're doing. And so you definitely want to make that decision. You can also find other formulas on here, tables, charts, add in different sources, and different things like that. Add images. You can do whatever it is that you want to do here. And again, most of these will grade itself, I believe. And then student attempts, as you can see what each student got. It does take a little bit longer to grade than the other one, so keep that in mind if you do use this one. My suggestion to you, I hope this was helpful. I'm not as familiar with writing math tests, so I don't know the type of information I have to give you. I do suggest that you play around with it, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me, and then I can see if I can find somebody who knows the answer if I don't. Okay? So I hope this helps. Thanks.